1, 2, 1, 2. Just testing 2. 1, 2, 1, 2. Just testing 2. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Yes. What am I talking about today? What I'm talking about is why was it wrong for me as a BREXITER to make that decision based on what has happened to Great Britain, England, Scotland and Wales in unison and individually since the occurrence of the English people and British people voting to Brexit for England, Scotland and Wales to leave the European Union, to stop being part of the United European countries, which some people say was established to make sure there would no longer be war again in Europe, to guarantee no more war amongst European countries against one another, and a unison, a common agenda, a common club, a regional collective of countries all in the same place, guaranteeing that they wouldn't attack each other, thus guaranteeing present and future stabilisation of the region, giving each country part of that unison a chance to progress without being destabilised by any disastrous, costly war. Yes. The main reason why I personally, back to the reason why I regret thinking that Brexit was a good thing to do at the time it was done. Why I regret that? It seems that Brexit was covertly orchestrated by the far right to build a climate where they could gain ground and gain power, like investing and orchestrating and organising to put that climate in place so they could thrive. And I believe that Brexit was one of those things, because ever since, in this country, especially in England, where I live, they say Britain, but I say I live in England, the which is part of Britain. Most of the people that voted Brexit were mainly senior citizens who have always been in every country the one scared of change, and it was just if excuse me. It was as if they had been targeted. It's as if that demographic, to every political party has got a particular type of demographic. Young people, old people, middle class people, ruling class people, working class people. Like in this country, in England, at one time, in Britain, at one time, you could clearly say the Labour Party back in the 60s. You said the Labour Party was for the, I wasn't about politics in the 60s, but anyway. Back in the 60s, but looking back in history, the Labour Party was for the working class people, the Conservative Party was for upper class people. Now they both had each of them demographics or them classes class of people's interests are in different parties. Egypt, where again, whereas the Labour Party and the working class people's interests at heart, and the Conservative Party, you should have the upper class people at heart, interests at heart. But it seems that these exploiters of the Brexit, or the people that don't want to cooperate with Europe, with the European Union's people's community agenda, especially where immigration to Europe's concerned. They're stoking up far right nationalism. And we all know when we look back on the history, the First World War, Second World War, all the nationalism that's been and in Serbia, in the Balkans too, in Serbia, in all nationalism in Europe just causes that country that turns far right nationalist to be totally destroyed, like Dresden, like Germany did, actually blown to bloody smithereens. So it could be the enemies of Europe that are bringing this far right nostalgia and propaganda and ideologies to rise. It could be the enemies of Europe trying to do that, knowing that if they do turn to, if Britain does turn to the far, Europe does turn to the far right, it will cause interception from one of the superpowers who will totally annihilate them if they get militant or try to take over the far right, try to take over, and it'll just cause destruction on the country where they are. If it's England, Wales, if it's Germany, France, they'll be destroyed. Look what happened to the Balkans and Serbs. They got dealt with. Look what happened to the Second World War. Hitler in the Second World War. Hitler in the Second World War. Look what happened to what he got done to his country. Look what Mussolini got done to his country. Going to the far right. He just causes destruction in Europe of the countries that participate in the ideology. And I believe the enemies, it could be conspiracy by the enemies of Europe, knowing that is a consequence of the far right getting big in Europe. They will cause some serious destruction of the country where the far right ideologies reside and take power. They'll be totally destroyed. That is a person. Although I don't believe that far right parties should be at power, but I'm not saying it for that sake. I'm saying it for the sake of going by history. They'll get annihilated, man. And I don't want this country to be annihilated due to the enemies of Europe. I don't want people, enemies of the European Union, enemies of Europe, conspiring to create a climate where the far right thrive. In the name of nationalism and being saying they're out for the best interest of the working class and masses of the people and the indigenous people of Europe, knowing that they're fooling them by just leading them into a hate-filled environment, destructive environment, unharmonious environment, but all the superpowers of the world hate them, want to destroy them if they get any power, and when they do it, annihilate the place, but bomb the place to smithereens. And that's back to the flipping Stone Age again for possible European countries. And I don't want that, but the enemies of Europe would want that. The enemies want to see Europe destroyed, want to see Europe fall, or remain competitive if Europe in a conspiratorial way. They do it anyway. They bloody can destroy the place any way they can. Whether it's bombs, whether it's war, whether it's politics, whether it's finances, whether it's corporations, whether it's espionage. They do it any way they can. The enemies of European people. Europe's got a lot of enemies. Europe has got a lot of enemies. A lot of people envy the European region. And want to be like it, would do anything in their power to be like it, including doing conspiratorial covert things to go about doing that. So so the main reason why I regret agreeing with the Brexit when the Brexit took place, when England and Britain voted to Brexit to the European Union, the reason why I regret it is because I didn't realise it was a conspiracy by the far right. And me knowing that the far right want to destroy Europe, they don't want to mend it. That's all I wanted to say. Gee, I'm out.